Yeah, it feels surreal to be back here. I feel wonderful to be back here after 25 years. 25 years ago, when I walked out of this place, I had absolutely no idea, what would happen in those 25 years. I had no idea I would go on and start a company. And most importantly, I would do it for the next 2 decades. I had no idea I would write a book, and I had no idea I would be back here as the guest of honor. So I'm really, really excited to be back here. Most of the meaningful things that happened in my life, they happened once I left IIT. But most of those things were enabled right here at IIT. Yeah, I mean, back in the days, success for most of us was either getting a scholarship at the most coveted universities in the US, or having like a really great job, a well-paying job, and then making a great career out of it. I think one thing that has changed now is that, now the definition of success is more about building something meaningful, creating an impact in the lives of, millions of people. And I think that definition is what makes it really exciting. In fact, right now, I would say that this is actually an extraordinary moment to be passing out of IIT Kanpur, because in this world right now, this is the best time to be a builder. I think this is the only time in the history of humanity that a small team with AI could actually create something meaningful which could impact millions of people. And so I think my suggestion to people passing out, young people who are passing out today, would be to go out and build something and create an impact. One thing that I look back is like how difficult it was to crack the JEE exams, right? Because somehow it doesn't matter how much you prepared, the questions that would come would be completely different and never seen before. And so you had to learn how to solve that problem that you had never solved before. So I think the most important thing that I learned at IIT was learning how to learn. And I think that lesson became the most important lesson in our life, because while building a company, you navigate through so much uncertainty that you have to constantly keep learning. You have to constantly keep reinventing yourself. And that's the only real way to survive. So I think this is what IIT taught me. The second thing that it taught me was that, when I came here, I came from a school where I was probably the smartest person in that school for over a decade. And when I arrived here, I think almost everybody around me was smarter than me. And so this is the other thing that IIT taught me, that you have to surround yourself with people who are smarter than you. So when we started hiring people, we realized that, the mantra would be that hire people who are smarter than yourself. Because in the end, when you build a company, the success of your company doesn't depend on how smart the founders are, but it depends on how great a team they were able to assemble. And so that remained the only way in which we were able to kind of raise the bar for who we were as a team and keep pushing the boundaries for what was possible. So when we started solving for travel, we realized that travel was broken. And we thought that, technology could solve a lot of those problems. Eventually, that obsession for solving consumer problems is what made me start ixigo. And if you are genuinely obsessed with solving consumer problems, at some point of time, you will end up on the same path of entrepreneurship. The easy answer would be resilience, right? That's the reason why we survive. But you are resilient because you never give up, essentially. And I think there were times when we were probably one day away from shutting down, but we kept fighting, and we found a way out, and we survived. So we lived to fight another day. The other thing that really mattered was ingenuity. When you are in a very tough situation and you have your back against the wall, their instinct says that there are only two outcomes, fight or flight. So, for us, it was always about figuring out ways of surviving, like ingenuous ways to kind of invent something to get out of that tough situation. And so we will always come out stronger at the other end. COVID was an unprecedented situation. I don't think, like just when we had thought that we had seen it all, COVID happened. And I still remember that, there was a point where we saw all our dashboards were showing zero. Like because everything had come to a standstill. So there was zero bookings, zero revenue, everything was zero. And I was sitting like idle, and my heart rate went up to 120 while I was talking to Alok about what do we do next. And that's the moment when we realized that we were facing an unprecedented situation. And I think the only thing that we were worried about was not about the spreadsheets or the revenues or any other thing. We are only worried about our people. We are worried about our consumers. And so the first thing that we did was we took the decision to not let go of anybody. And we knew that it was tough because it was hard, because we only had about a few months of runway left. And the only way we could survive would be if we had to kind of let go of people. But we decided against it because we thought it was a humanitarian crisis. If we let go of them, they wouldn't find a job anywhere else outside. So we invented a mathematical function to give a salary cut which was proportionate to the amount of salary that people had. And so there was absolutely no salary cut for people who were really at the bottom of the salary curve. And there were like very deep cuts for people who were like at the top of the salary. I mean, we and quite a few people in the leadership team, we went to completely like zero salaries. And the second thing we did was we decided to refund every single penny to all the consumers who canceled their tickets, even when we had not received the refund from our partners, which was also a very risky move. But in the end, we thought that, we might as well go down doing the right thing, because eventually one of the things that we always lived by is that you would want to not do something that you won't be comfortable going to bed with at night. One of the reasons why we survived, like I said, was resilience. And the second reason was the ingenuity that we had to get us out of those tough situations. However, you might have, the never give up attitude. You might have the ingenuity to invent solutions to problems and get out of tough situations. But the only reason why you would do that is because you have the will to survive. And that comes from something much bigger. It comes from purpose. And for us, the purpose of doing something bigger than ourselves, the purpose of creating impact for people, the purpose that, what we were building, the conviction that we had for what we were building, I think that purpose is what made us, fight this. The purpose is what made us survive to live the next day. Like having done this for so long and having met so many people in the founder circle and in general, and I think even at IIT, like most of my classmates were brilliant people. And what I've realized that, there is not much of a correlation between intelligence and the ability to create something, right? I think founders have some of these qualities which are slightly different inherently as human beings. And I think these qualities are, people who start companies generally have higher risk-taking appetite. So they have, their ability to take risk is higher, whereas others are more risk averse in general, which is also what makes them generally more optimists about things. And so founders have this irrational optimism about the idea that they have or what they're building. They also have an irrational optimism about their own future self. And they think that, they can be somebody who is, a much better version of themselves in the future, and they can solve all the problems and they can achieve everything that they envisioned, right? what they don't realize is that, they'll have to go through like years of toiling and hard work and pain to do that. Like if somebody was able to show them that, if I could go back and I could see the future and see that I'm going to go through like 2 decades of pain, blood, sweat and tears to get to where I am, you'd probably not start, right? But generally founders, they don't see that, right? Entrepreneurs don't see that. They see a future which is always very positive. And so they are inherently irrational optimists. The other thing I feel also is really good, a good quality is empathy. And I think as human beings, if you are able to kind of understand others, understand their pain, you generally would be very good at solving the problems. In fact, if I go back and look at my own career, like even when I was working and not running a company, I would look around and I would find problems. And I had a note that I used to take where I would look at problems around me. I would find a solution, I would note it down. Now, say that someday I'll start a company to solve that problem. And that note, like that list became very, very long. I still have that list. And what I started doing now was I started kind of crossing out things that are getting built. But this attitude, like this instinct of, seeing those problems, the empathy to understand the pain areas of others and the ability to solve them. I think this is what makes founders very, very unique in that sense. Founders are also, one of the traits I would see is their ability to kind of, articulate themselves, their vision. They're very good at kind of convincing people about, what they're building. I think that skill is also very, very important for a founder, because that is what excites people and motivates them to follow them, right? I think if you don't have a team, you can't really build anything anyway. So I think their ability to kind of, have like this vision and then articulate that vision like in a way that can excite people and motivate them to join them is what makes them who they are. Yeah, you know what? I never wanted to write a book. That's the reality, because I thought that I would never have the time, and I also felt that it was unnecessary. However, there was somebody who convinced me to do that, and the only reason I did it is because, building is an excruciatingly painful exercise. When I look back, in fact, I wrote the book to my 25-year-old self, because if I had a manual back in the days, I'd probably not go through so much pain, right? And it's not that you should not go through pain. I think everybody should go through their own painful experience to learn something, because you don't learn anything unless you don't go through real pain. In fact, resilience is built by going through near-death experiences, right? And you cannot simulate near-death experiences in a lab. Judgment is made by taking tough decisions. Instinct is built with experience. So people have to go through their own pains in life, right? But sometimes, you don't always have to learn from your own scars. Sometimes you can learn from other people's scars as well. And that's the reason why I wrote Made in Fires. So, a company should not die in COVID just because they did not have the financial discipline. That is something that can be very easily learned, right? You should not lose your health because of your obsession for achieving a milestone, right? Or you should not poison your culture just because you didn't know how important hiring was. Like, there are lots of things that are unnecessary pains that you should not be going through. So this book will not remove all the fires from your journey, for sure. But it will avoid you walking into unnecessary fires. And that's exactly what a good manual should be doing. So I think that this is a manual that will help you navigate and avoid those unnecessary fires that most of the time people learn the hard way. I mean, we have learned everything the hard way in our lifetime. In fact, anything that could possibly go wrong has gone wrong in our journey. And so, that pain is what kind of, inspired me to write something so that, I could help hundreds of thousands of young entrepreneurs out there and it could be useful for them. I think, 25 years down the line, nobody will remember what your CPI was or which stream of engineering you passed out from. I think everybody will remember what you built, what impact you created in the society, how you treated people, etc. So my advice to people would be, you should stay curious. You should take this as probably the biggest opportunity like in the history of humanity.